Food prices, energy prices, housing prices have been increasing all over Europe. But how bad it is in Belgium? Hi, my name is Nora. I'm an immigrant from Hungary and I have been living in Belgium for 3 years. First, I lived for 1 year in Brussels and now I've been living in Antwerp for the 2nd year. So I'm gonna share my experience with you about the cost of living in Belgium. Let's start with housing. The prices will be kind of different based on the region you are looking for housing in. So for example, it's gonna be more expensive in Brussels. It's also gonna be a slightly more expensive than the rest of the country in Antwerp, but it is still cheaper than Brussels in my experience. And then cities like Ghent or Bruges will be, in my experience, cheaper than Antwerp. So Brussels, let's say you are looking for a studio apartment, right? If you are looking in more central areas, I would say you can find studio apartments from between 700 to 1,000 euros a month. This is just the rent. Sometimes it can also include the common costs, but this is something that you have to check with the owner or the real estate agent. I would say if you are really lucky, you can find studio apartments in relatively central Brussels for 650 or something, but I don't think it goes any lower than that. That's a really lucky find. And of course, if you move more central, like to the old town, to the touristic areas, the prices will grow and you can also find studio apartments for 1,500 euros a month or so. So Antwerp, as I said, is slightly less expensive. In my experience, a studio apartment can cost anywhere between 500 to 900 in the central areas. If you go more to the outskirts, it's gonna be more houses and bigger apartments in my experience, but they are also gonna get a bit cheaper. That's not necessarily true in all of the districts because there are some really nice areas in Antwerp like Berchem or Vierrijk where the prices can be a bit higher because they are really nice neighborhoods. At the moment we are living in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's a pretty big apartment and it's a bit more outskirts than the south district of Antwerp, and we are paying 900 euros a month just for rent. But I think also the closer you go to the touristic areas, the old town, of course things will get more expensive. However, keep it in mind that if you are moving to Brussels, you will only have to pay 2 months rent as deposit, whereas in Flanders and in Antwerp, of course, you will have to pay 3 months deposit. So let's talk about utilities. So first of all, we always have a common cost in every apartment building, most of the apartment buildings at least. The common cost is basically a monthly fee that you pay in order to maintain the building, for the elevator, if it has a common garden, and so on and so on. And also it goes to this representative of the building called the syndicus, which is an organization that is responsible for maintaining anything that goes wrong in the building. So this common cost can be anything between 30 euros to even up to 250 euros a month. But if it's this high, then it usually includes your entire unlimited water consumption and also your heating, and that's also unlimited. But you have to be careful with this though, because you still have meters, and if you overstep this, if you consume more water or more heating at a gas than what is in this provisional amount, then they will also increase this common cost for you. So gas and electricity, so if it's not included in the common costs and you have to pay separately for it, it's a bit hard to tell at the moment because due to the energy crisis, the prices really increased last year. However, now they have gone down a bit, not even a bit. It's a lot better now. So before the energy crisis, I was paying gas and electricity altogether. I was paying 45 euros a month. Then they increased this a bit. And I heard like really horror stories of how much people had to pay during the energy crisis. And now the prices are a lot lower, luckily. So I can't really tell you my gas bills at the moment, but for electricity I pay 20 euros a month. So maybe they will have a look at my meters in a year, and they will say that I still have to pay X amount, but I don't think it's that bad at the moment. The internet, it's gonna depend a lot on the provider that you choose. You can sometimes find some really good deals, but it can be anywhere between 40 to 60 euros a month. I heard from some acquaintances that there are some less well-known internet providers and they are a lot cheaper than this. I have no idea, I will check it out, but yes, just count with at least 40 to 60 euros a month, and if you need even better internet, then maybe it can be even more expensive. And another thing that you have to pay every month as kind of part of your utilities is the home insurance. So in Belgium, it is the tenant's responsibility to pay home insurance and to sign a contract with the insurance company. So you can do that usually with your bank, you can do it online, it's really easy to do, but just keep it in mind that you will have to pay for this as well. So it can be anything from 16, 20 euros, maybe it can be more expensive if you have a larger house or if you live with more people. Let's talk about food prices. So food prices increased in Belgium as well, just like in the rest of Europe. However, I do have to say this, because of the inflation, it is mandatory in Belgium to increase the salaries of the workers at the beginning of the year. So yes, the food prices and prices of everything increased, but our salaries also increased. So I think it's a really great thing. But yes, so talking about food, if you are going to shop in supermarkets, the key is to know where to buy which kind of food. So that's kind of what I do in order to, shop on a budget. There are certain small versions of the supermarkets, the big brands on your corner and so on. These will be, of course, more expensive. And if you go to bigger supermarkets, it will be less expensive. I would say that I spend about maybe 70 euros a week on food for 2 persons. So I think that's pretty good, but I'm like a really conscious shopper, I shop for the deals and everything. So if you're gonna move to Belgium, my tip is to get the loyalty cards from all the supermarket brands, and that will give you a lot of good deals. So that's how I do it. However, if you are going to order food, takeaway, go out, eat at a restaurant, that's gonna be pretty expensive. So there are some cheap places, of course, if you want to eat like pizza or something, but if you want to eat something healthy and real quality food, then you might have to spend, so at least I think the cheapest will be around 15 euros just one dish, and then it can grow up to even 25 or 30 euros, depending on what you want to order. The drinks are also gonna be fairly expensive. If you are drinking like a nice Belgian beer, it's definitely gonna be around 5 euros, maybe 4. The less fancy Belgian beers, they are gonna be like 3 euros, I think. If you're gonna drink cocktails, it's gonna be around 10 to 12 euros, maybe even more. If you drink something non-alcoholic, I think that's usually around 3 or 4 euros. So public transport, it's a bit complicated in Belgium because there are, I think, 4 different companies responsible for public transport. There is one that is responsible for the Brussels area, and it's like the metro lines belong to it, so you have to get a card for that one. But if you want to use buses that go to Flanders, then you have to buy a pass with a different company as well. So it's pretty complicated. I would say the tickets are fairly expensive, especially compared to other European countries. I would say in Brussels, for me it's okay because they have the metro and it runs like every 5 minutes. It's really good. However, in Antwerp, that's not the case. It's like the service is a lot worse. There are always delays, there are always cancellations, the tram just doesn't show up, and so on and so on. But let's get to the prices. So in Antwerp, you have to pay for a monthly pass. If you are older than 25 years, then you have to pay around 50 euros for a monthly pass. If you want to buy a yearly pass, and again you are older than 25, you have to pay around 350 euros. If you are younger than 25, the monthly pass will be 33 euros and the yearly pass will be 215 euros. To be honest, my recommendation is, at least if you are in Antwerp, that just don't buy the pass and use the bike instead. Buy a bike for yourself from these second-hand online websites, or you can use the city bike system, which only costs 45 euros for a year. And you can use the city bikes at every station. You can use them, I think, for 30 minutes, you put it back to another station, and it's a pretty good system. Brussels has the same system. It's called something else, but it's also this cheap. I think it's also around 40-45 euros for a year. So in Belgium, you also have to pay health insurance separately, so it's not just gonna be deducted from your salary. These are called mutualiteit in Dutch. So these are organizations that provide health insurance. So you can compare their offers. They have like basic plans that only include like going to your GP, but they also have plans that include like a dental plan, or I don't know, gynecologist, and so on and so on. With some of them you can also get glasses, so you should check it out what you need. And you can always compare the prices. I will put a link below. So at the moment I am with an organization, and I pay 25 euros per quarter for health insurance. I used to be with another one, with that I paid 9 euros a month. So when you go to the doctor here, you will have to pay for your visit. I think the cheapest possible is around 25 euros, but please correct me if I'm wrong. If you are going to a specialist like a gynecologist or an ear for your ear, or anything else, that's gonna cost you a lot more. But with this health insurance, when you are signed up and paying health insurance to this mutualiteit, then you can send them your bills, and they will refund you for a big chunk of that amount that you paid at the doctors. So correct me if I'm wrong, Belgians, please, but I think there is also something like a social contribution that you have to pay every year. And if I remember correctly, it was around 100 or 110 euros every year. But please let me know if it's something different. Okay, talking about some leisure, if you want to go to the cinema, if you want to take some classes, if you want to do some sports, right? So let's talk about the cinemas. If you go to these big cinemas where you want to watch these big blockbusters, that's gonna be a bit more expensive. Anything around 12 to 15 euros, maybe a bit even more expensive depending where you go. If you like more indie movies or art movies and you like going to these smaller art cinemas, then it's gonna be cheaper. It's gonna be around 10 or 11 euros depending on where you go again. If you want to sign up to a gym and take some classes there, it can be, the cheapest options can be 25, 35, including group classes. I don't know, yoga, spinning, kettlebell, stuff like that. You can also go to fancier gyms. These can be, I don't know, 65 per month. What you have to be really careful is that most gyms will ask you for a big commitment, that you sign a contract for a year. And if you don't like that gym, it's a bit difficult to get out of it, and you can get stuck in that contract for 1 year. But I think they started offering more flexible options now. So you should check it out, and you should check your contract really well before signing anything. And it's the same with sports clubs or dance classes or something like this. Usually they want a commitment for you, and they want you to sign up for like an entire semester and so on. And that can cost maybe around 120, 150 or even more. So the sports club, for example, will always ask you for a membership, and then you have to pay a membership fee. I don't know, like 200 euros per year, and then you can use the facilities for free. Other classes, to be honest, here in Antwerp, I found them pretty expensive. So I wanted to take singing lessons, and they were like 60 euros an hour. And the same with like a cooking class, it's like over 60 euros an hour. If you want to go to a concert, depending on how big an artist you want to see, you can go to concerts for around 10-15 euros a ticket, which is pretty great, but of course these are less well-known artists. So if you want to see a big star, then you will have to reach deep into your pocket. So learning the language. If you want to learn the local languages, for example Dutch, they offer you these really cheap options, which is really great. So for example, when I arrived in Brussels, I wanted to learn Dutch as well. I already spoke a bit of French, but I wanted to learn Dutch as well. And I signed up with this organization called Huis van het Nederlands, and they offered me an entire semester for only 45 euros. So that's a pretty good price. If you are arriving in Antwerp, you can get courses for the same good price from Atlas. So they are this integration organization that help immigrants and expats, and they can hook you up with one of the adult education programs that will offer you really cheap courses to learn the language. If you want to learn another language that is not a local language, I don't know, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever, then as far as I know, a course costs around 150 euros or even 200 if it's an entire year. But I think that's also a pretty good offer. You just have to look at these adult education sites. You can also take classes with the University of Antwerp, but that is pretty expensive. Though it is really good and really intense, but really expensive. To buy some clothes, I would say I'm not a big fashion person or clothes shopper, to be honest, so I can't help you a lot with there. I was always buying clothes with these really well-known, cheaper clothes shops. But you can find really good clothes in the kringloopwinkels or kringwinkels. These are kind of like the charity shops in the UK. These are second-hand clothes, and I found some really, really nice things there. You can also download some apps. There are a variety of apps that are kind of like vintage clothing or selling your second-hand clothes or buying someone else's second-hand clothes and so on. So let's say you are moving here and most of the apartments that you can rent will be unfurnished, at least in Antwerp. In Brussels, I think you can find more options that are furnished. But let's say you have to buy furniture because you don't have anything, right? So if you go to these really well-known international furniture shops, you can get cheap offers there. I would say when we had to furnish our super empty rented apartment, I think it cost us around 2,500. If you want to buy more, you know, nice furniture, like more unique, more whatever, then it's gonna cost you a lot more, of course. And if you need to buy electronic appliances, they usually have them in the rental prices. So the kitchen usually is equipped. They usually have a fridge, sometimes a freezer, not always. They usually have an oven, or at least an oven that is like also a microwave oven. It was really weird for me. Sometimes they will also have a dishwasher. But your kitchen will be fully equipped, so you don't have to worry about that. However, most of the apartments don't have a washing machine. So you will either have to buy one for yourself or go do your laundry in these laundromats on the corner. What you have to know is that it's gonna be more expensive if you add it up. I remember I was only using the smaller washing machines in the laundromats, but it already cost €4 just for one wash. And then if you want to dry them, that's also an extra, I think, €2. And sometimes it will eat up your coins and so on and so on. So I think it's just better to buy a washing machine. So what I can tell you is if you go to one of these really cheap electronics shops, then you can get some really good deals. For example, I bought a washing machine for €350. And I would say if your employer also pays some of your benefits in EcoChecks, then you should wait until you get those, because you can use those to buy electronics like an A++++, or already like a really nice energy efficient washing machine. Of course, if you're gonna need a better washing machine, if you want a washing machine that also is a dryer, that's gonna be more expensive. You will also have some extra costs. Some of them you will have to only pay once, some of them you will have to pay monthly. So for example, if you are moving to an apartment that is on a higher floor and the stairs are too narrow and you cannot fit your furniture through it, then you have to book the movers, of course, but you also have to ask them to bring something called a ladder lift, which is kind of like a truck, and it has a lift that will take your furniture up to your floor, but through the window. That's something that's gonna cost you extra. You also have to reserve the parking space in front of your building, and that's also gonna cost you extra. Your landlord, landlady, land person might want to do an inventory themselves, but sometimes, or most of them, will hire an external company who will come to the apartment and document the state of everything, take pictures of everything, and you will have to split the fee of this external company between yourself and the owner of the apartment. And if you need a parking space, if you have a car, in some apartment buildings it is possible to rent one, and I would say that's gonna cost you around 150 euros extra in a month. So these were my 10 points for today based on my own experiences. Let me know if you agree, let me know if you have a different experience. Let me know if you would like to hear about some other topics about Belgium or some other countries. I will try to make more videos about Belgium, but also about other European countries. And let me know if you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you are interested in this content, then you can also subscribe to my channel. I will post videos every week. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week.